Hey guys, welcome back to another impressions video. This time around to talk about Yakuza 6, the Song of Life for the PlayStation 4, a 2018 release that I was very excited and eagerly anticipating. Some of you may know I'm a pretty big fan of the Yakuza series, so I was looking forward to this game with a lot of anticipation, and to the point that I got the limited edition, as you guys can see here. Something that I don't typically do for something that's as big as this, but I was very interested in getting the this very unique limited edition that comes with the bar glasses or the liquor glasses. I thought that was that was a very interesting touch to the limited edition or special edition. Yeah, I have an unboxing video for those of you that are interested in seeing the contents in more detail. But Yakuza 6, as far as the game itself, I was very surprised. I thought it was a very good game. Perhaps not the best in the series, but I really enjoyed the game, and I was very excited for this in particular because Yakuza 6 was made from the ground up for the PlayStation 4 hardware in mind, meaning that the graphics are the best in the series. Playing this game at night, exploring Kamurocho at night is just fantastic. Looking at the neon lights and everything in this game is just fantastic. The game also features a new physics engine, which it made things a little bit weird, and I'll get into more detail in a second as far as that. But as far as the story, I'm not gonna go into detail. Obviously, this is the latest entry in the Yakuza games, and if you guys have not played any of the 5 previous ones, there's no point, because if I'm gonna be trying to catch up with all the events that happened previously, it'll take forever. But the gist of this game is actually it's an interesting plot in the sense that it involves Haruka, a grown-up version of Haruka, of course. For those of you that have played Yakuza 5, you already know that she is like a teen idol and everything like that. Not anymore in Yakuza 6. That already passed. And now you come to learn that after Kiryu, the protagonist in this game, after he serves a couple of years in prison for all his past crimes and everything like that, once he gets out, he finds out that Haruka was hurt in this hit-and-run accident, and that at the same time she also had a child, while he was in prison. So he's very surprised, because she is like like family. She calls him Uncle Kaz, even though they're not blood related. Yeah, Kiryu was is very surprised to find out that she had a son. So she is in a state of coma, like she can't talk or anything like that. So Kiryu kind of like assumes the role of a father figure, if you will, and he is set on to find the actual perpetrator of the hit and run, and also find the identity of the person, of the actual father. And he's very upset because obviously Haruka, she's by herself, and the father apparently is nowhere to be found, has abandoned her, the mother and the child. So that's how your journey sets. You have to solve the mystery of the hit and run, and you also have to find the who's the father of I think Haruto. That was the name of the baby. And the cool thing about Yakuza 6 is that it introduces a brand new area, which is always exciting in the Yakuza games. The Kamurocho, even though it's a small place, it feels like home. After playing so many Yakuza games, it's always the same place, but with a new. I don't want to say new things to do. It's always the same buildings, the same places, the same hosts, clubs and everything, the same restaurants. But every now and then, they throw new things into the town that make it interesting. And this is a weird kind of situation where if it was another game, you would say, man, this is so repetitive. Things don't change a whole lot, but in the Yakuza games, it feels good for some reason. Just being back to Kamurocho, where things are. Unfortunately for Yakuza 6, the Kamurocho area has been, certain areas they have been blocked. I don't know if it was some kind of limitation as far as just not for them not to bother creating new areas. But the cool thing is that a lot of the buildings are, you can enter a lot of more buildings than before, in my opinion. That's how I felt. Not only restaurants, but a lot of the office buildings. And in fact, you can enter like a lot of alleys, and you can actually enter buildings from like the alleys or the back sides. And I thought that was interesting as far as an exploration thing to do for Kamurocho. So that was a kind of like a new thing on that I checked on my list of fun things to do in the game. So Kamurocho is there in full-fledged force, you know, both during the day and night. During the night, it's just fantastic. It's a fun place to explore with all the neon lights from the stores and everything, the restaurants. And then you have the brand new area of the game, which is, I forgot, Onimichi, I think, which is basically in the Hiroshima like island, I think. And it's a fun place to explore, but unfortunately, I wish it had more like businesses or stores or restaurants that you'd be able to explore. I really like the area. It has this different feel, like a smaller town, which is exactly what it is. It's like a smaller coastal town, and it's very charming. You know, a lot of the houses, when you get to like the residential area, it's just very fun to walk through the alleys. But unfortunately, there's not a lot to interact with. I wish there were more buildings that you can enter, or more stores or businesses, restaurants, and whatnot. Not to say that there are not things like that to do, but I was hoping that there would be more things to do in Hiroshima. But nevertheless, a fresh of breath air to have like a brand new location in the game. And of course, the game takes place in both places, back and forth, basically, depending on the chapter that you're playing. And the game itself, it's hard for me to judge how long the game is, because I typically don't rush through the Yakuza games, because I enjoy doing the mini games or the side quests, and it's part of the charm of the Yakuza games. And in my opinion, there's no such thing as rushing through a Yakuza game. If you're doing that, you're kind of doing it the wrong way, and you really are. It's like a disservice to the actual game, because a lot of the wackiness and the crazy things that happen in the Yakuza games are the side quests. So I was able to complete a very good, I want to say large chunk of them. I don't think this game has as many side quests as previous games, so in that regard, it's a little bit easier. And as far as gameplay, this introduces a new type of mini game, which is the Clan Wars, or the Clan Creator, which is a very fun strategy clan war type of game that breaks away from the typical beat 'em up type of fighting that you encounter in the Yakuza games. This one is you actually direct, you know, your quote-unquote soldiers. You recruit new fighters, new soldiers for your clan, and depending on their abilities, it's a very fun type of game mode. So make sure you check that out when you play this game. It's very addicting, actually. Now, going back to the new physics engine that they're using, because again, this is a brand new game, it was created from the ground up for the PlayStation 4 hardware. There are actually things that I don't like about that, and by that I mean the new engine that they're using, the new graphical engine, makes some of the characters look weird. Like Haruka, I was actually, I know she aged. Obviously, she's a young. You see, she's a young character in the series that has been growing, which is kind of cool. You know, when you first meet her on the first Yakuza game, you know, she's a little girl, and now she's basically an adult person. So that's pretty cool. But her face just, I don't know, it looks weird. Like in my opinion, they did a good job all the way up until Yakuza 5 of making her look just what she looks like, you know, during the series. And this new physics engine, in my opinion, makes her look a little bit weird. And the same thing with recurring characters from previous games. They look a little bit different. The good news is that Kiryu looks very much the same, which is both a good and bad news. Like, it's very hard to tell that he's aging. Like, supposedly he's in his 50s in this game, but he looks like he's in his like mid 30s. As always, you know, he looks great. He's always kicking ass, alive and kicking ass, and you know. And speaking of kicking ass, you also have the new combat system, which In my opinion, it's like a step back from the addicting type of combat system that, in my opinion, was found on Yakuza 0. The new physics engine allows for a more heavier, it just feels heavy, and it feels like it's more physics based. So that could be a good or a bad thing depending on whether you like a more realistic feel to the combat system or not. In my opinion, the combat system took a step back as well in that regard, which is a little bit of a shame. But in your typical Yakuza fashion, you have a lot of ways to increase points in different categories. Depending on the points, you can upgrade different skills that allow you to learn new moves, or you can improve your character's health or stamina or speed. It's a new system that is very addicting in terms of earning the different types of points. They're kind of like color coded in this game, and you get points for like literally anything you do, such as eating food, and certain foods give you more points for certain categories. So sometimes you even have to watch what you're eating in a sense. Like if you're trying to gain points on a certain on a certain skill, you go to the restaurant, you take a look at the menu, and then you eat that. And I feel like this game has a bigger emphasis on eating on the restaurants, not only to gain health back, but to also gain experience, which I found that very interesting because one of the appeals for me for the Yakuza games is trying out different restaurants. And I know that sounds weird because it's a video game, you're not actually tasting the food or anything like that, but I always get a kick out of trying different restaurants and just looking at the menu and the different items they have. I think it's interesting. And in this particular game, I think that eating out on restaurants is actually like a crucial part as far as if you're trying to level up your character, gain new skill points, and things like that. Obviously, the voice acting in this game, everything is in Japanese, so it's very hard to determine if it's good or not. But it's very appropriate. It just adds more immersion to the game. I really like the voice acting, the Japanese voice acting in the game. And of course, as any Yakuza game, this game has a ton of cutscenes. Like out of the hours that I played, I don't know how many hours of those were cutscenes. And this particular game has a lot of them early in the game, so don't get discouraged if you feel like you're watching a movie. That's kind of like the nature of the Yakuza games. But of course, if you're new to the series, I highly recommend that you don't start here, obviously, and go back to Yakuza 0 and then 1, and then 2 will be released fairly soon. So in my opinion, there's a lot of other games that are more appropriate for newcomers of the series. But for those of us that have already experienced the Yakuza universe, I think this game has a fairly good story, a little bit too much on the ridiculous side later on. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I thought later on in the game there are certain things that I was just shaking my head. And I know the cheesiness and the quirkiness of the series, it's part of the series. This game doesn't take itself too seriously when it comes to story, characters, and things like that. But in my opinion, it just went a little bit too much. Towards the end of the game, I thought certain things were a little bit too ridiculous. Yeah, the story is interesting. It's, I guess, funny in a way. And of course, you have that father figure that you assume controlling Kiryu, protecting the little baby throughout the game. That's something that I thought it was a very interesting touch. Going back in the opposite way, we're talking about the quirkiness and some of the ridiculous things about this game. Then this game also has a kind of like a mature side of things. It shows Kiryu being already like an older person and caring for those he loves a lot, and he's willing to do anything to obviously protect his loved ones. So that's another kind of like a mature message that the game sends out, and I thought that was a very interesting thing. So overall, I'm very happy with Yakuza 6. I'm not really sure where I would rank this. My goal here is to, once I play Yakuza 2, that will be basically the last mainline Yakuza game that I need to play and do like a serious discussion where I rank all the Yakuza games. But I was fairly satisfied with this game. I know in Japan this game got a lot of flack from Japanese people for some reason, and they didn't like the story or something like that. But I thought it was an interesting game, a little bit on the ridiculous side on the story later on. But it was a fun experience, and I'm really glad I got to play this game now that the game finally made it here to North America. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all later.